So we are still talking about the mu'rabat, right? Mu'rabat. And I think we are almost about to wrap up these topics. The last time what we talked about was what? Al-Asma'ul Khamsa. I told you these 5 words is only 5 words and gives us a lot of hassle. There's a lot of rules, but they are important. We have to be very familiar with these concepts or these five words. Now, and here we can highlight what he's saying. وَأَمَّا الْأَسْمَاءُ الْخَمْسَةُ. As for the 5 nouns, فَتُرْفَعُ بِالْوَاوِ. So we do the rough state using the waw. Okay, so it's not your asl. There is no dhamma. So we do waw. And for the nasb state, it is alif. And we do jar state using ya. Okay. As you can see, we're almost wrapping up. So the main thing that is left for us, especially in terms of the nouns, is this topic that the author calls al-ismu alladhi la yansarifu. And this is something that inshallah we'll be talking about today. And I told you this topic, it's a little bit dense. And once we are done with that, then inshallah the rest, what he's talking about, these are all about verbs. So what I wanted to do is leave the verbs i'rab when we actually talk about the verbs. The author actually starts the chapter Babul al-Af'al after he introduced the i'rab. But inshallah, we will talk about the verbs and the i'rab at the same time. Okay, so right after this topic, the topic that we'll be covering, we'll start today. Inshallah, we'll have a review and then maybe quiz and a little bit short break. But this topic, it has many different names. You know, this is one way the author is saying, which is not a popular way of saying it. The most popular is the term they call ممنوع من الصرف. ممنوع من الصرف. And there's another title, another name for this topic is called غير منصرف. Inshallah, I will mention all of them. And that might take, I don't know, at least 2 weeks, because you will see this topic is very interesting. So Jayed, so this is all we are reading from Ajrumiyyah. Now, another thing I want to talk about this topic, Mamnu min as-sarf, most of the books, okay, most of the sharh, when you do explanation, for example, I'll show you our simple, the simple explanation that we have, which is called Mumti'. Even this book, they will not explain the Mamnu min as-sarf in the beginning. I was just trying to find out the topic. I didn't find it. What he did is he put this all the way at the end. Oh man, subhanallah. Mamnu min as-sarf. You see the page number. So why is that? It's not only him. Same goes for Alfiya. So what they will do in the beginning, they will mention the Mamnu min as-sarf and they will mention the i'rab, because we have to know the hukum. We have to know how do we do the i'rab, because when we are studying mu'rabat, only thing we care about the i'rab. How do we deal with the fatha, dhamma, and kasra, right? So he, both this book and also Alfi ibn Malik and also Qatr Nada, Ibn Hisham, all of them in the mu'rabat, they do mention this topic, but only to say that how to do i'rab. But they don't talk about anything else. They don't talk about how do we know which words are mamnu min as-sarf. because this topic is very big. So what they do, they bring back this topic all the way in the end, just like what he did now. As you can see, he's giving a quite a lot of explanations. Look at this. This is all from the ممنوع من الصرف, and then he ends here. You understand? And this is one of the small sharh. Even for that, you have to spend at least 5 pages. You understand? That's why they usually don't want to bring right in the beginning. As long as you understand how to do Arab, that's sufficient. But that's obviously not what we're gonna be doing. We will actually tackle this. I actually want to cover the ممنوع من الصرف so that we understand, and it's done. Make sense? I was thinking about which book to cover in order for us to go through this, and inshallah, what I'll do is I will actually use our this book. Okay, we'll use this book. Let's see what he's talking about here. Another thing I want to mention quickly here, because if you have this book, I know like these are all Arabic, you get frustrated, but if you can just somehow skim through these pages and don't get intimidated by just because it's Arabic, because you can pick up something. I've explained to you a lot of things. For example, this is a verse. You can recognize a verse because the way they write it. And then I taught you how to read these things. Because right now he's not talking about meaning. He's saying, for example, you say wa abuna shaykhun kabirun. Very simple sentence here. Extremely simple sentence. Only thing you might get confused if you don't know your 5 nouns. If it was the waw wasn't here, it would be very easy. You see, abuna, our father. This waw might, make you confused, but inshallah, right now you understand. You've been studying it, so you know that this is your what? This is your one of the asmaul khamsa. So the meaning is very clear, and our father is a big sheikh. But now the issue is that you can also read this thing. Although these are all Arabic, you can read it because you know what's going to happen. Muqtada, you know what muqtada, and we studied from here, marfu. So now you know it is marfu. Wa alamatu raf'ihi, what? Wow. You see? So you should read these things and get used to them. And why? Because he's saying لأنه من الأسماء الخمسة. Make sense? Now, so here we come to al-mamnu' min as-sarf. Here we come to al-mamnu' min as-sarf. So before I talk about al-mamnu' min as-sarf, what I'll do is I will actually explain something separately. Hold on a second, let me find my notes. Okay, so let me explain something. What are we talking about? So remember last time when we were talking about nouns, we had different taqsim. We divided nouns into many different categories, right? We had first taqsim where we talked about noun being mudhakkar and muannath. Actually, the first taqsim that we talked about is the ending, right? And it doesn't matter, the order doesn't matter. The first one we talked about the ending, like whether it has sahih, qalam, the ending is sahih or not, and or it is maqsoor, what we just talked about, huda, which has alif at the end, or manqus, which has iya at the end, or mamdud, which has alif and hamza at the end. Okay, sahra. So this is the first taqsim that we talked about. Second taqsim we talked about is the mudhakkar and muannath, noun being masculine and feminine. Third taqsim we talked about is the numbers, right? Numbers being mufrad, muthanna, and jam'un, right? The noun is being divided into 3 types of numbers. And then the fourth taqsim, which is a noun can either be munsarif or it can be غير munsarif. A noun can be munsarif or غير munsarif. So what do we mean by munsarif? The word is the sarf. Here, when we say munsarif, what we mean is that simply it means noun can have tanween, noun that has a tanween, and noun that doesn't have tanween. Doesn't have tanween. So when we say munsarif, the sarf here, we're not talking about the sarf signs that we have. We have the nahu, we have a sarf. That is not what we mean. When the grammarians say munsarif and ghayr munsarif, they are specifically talking about noun that has a tanween and noun that doesn't have tanween. That is their concern. Okay? For example, we have waladun, it has tanween. Muhammadun, it has tanween. And then we have words that doesn't have tanween. For example, we have Ibrahim mu. You cannot say Ibrahimun. Ibrahimu. Make sense? We say ahmaru. We cannot say ahmarun. Ahmar is what? Red. Red. The color red, right? So bottom line, what you can see that we can divide our nouns into two types. One that accept tanween and the nouns that does not accept tanween. In noun, the munsarif is your asl, and that is the majority of the noun anyway. But then we have a set of words that they don't take tanween, and then that's why you call them غير munsarif. Okay, and this is what we call also ممنوع من الصرف. Again, when we say sarf, we mean tanween. Is it clear, guys? So bottom line, what is the what we need to study in this topic? We need to study two things. Number one, so how do we deal with them? We already know, we've spent tons of time dealing with the munsarif. We know how to do i'rab, waladun, waladan, waladin. You know, we know these i'rabs. They, by and large, they follow the asl, right? So our first concern is to find out, well, then how do we do the i'rab of the غير munsarif? Is it just like asl or not? How do we do the i'rab? So this is something that we have to tackle. So this topic, the first part is not that difficult. The second part is, what are the words غير munsarif? How do we know which word doesn't take tanween? And that is, my friends, a long discussion. Here we have to spend, depends on how much we want to talk about. So I'll try to make it interesting and short, but at the same time, so much we have to know. Because when we discuss what are the words that falls under غير munsarif, we have to learn a lot about nouns as well. When we say now, I mean isim in very details. So that topic, inshallah, I'll leave it for the next week. One thing I'll quickly just mention here, and then inshallah we'll read text. This concept of tanween, this tanween is unique to what? It's unique to ism. Meaning we don't have tanween in the verbs. Remember, what did we say? What is the alama of ism? Our first few lessons. The alama of ism is that we have a tanween. So as you can see, the tanween is a specialty of the noun. So that's why it wants to be in tanween. It wants to have this tanween. And one of the specialty of isim is what? One of the specialty of isim is kasra. The verb doesn't accept kasra. So what the grammarian want to say, if you say that it accepts tanween, then it must accept kasra. This is what they want to say. If you accept a tanween, that means you are a pure noun. So that means in order to be a pure noun, you better accept kasra, because this kasra is only for the nouns. You understand? So think about, the grammarian wants you to think that kasra and tanween, they go hand in hand. So this is the first concept I want you to keep in your mind. Number one, the tanween, they want to say a pure noun will accept tanween. That's number one. When you have a tanween in a noun, they want to say this is a pure noun. And what is pure and unpure, inshallah, we'll talk about this. Think about the asal. And if a word accepts tanween, then they want to say, then it better accept kasra. So what is the other way of saying it? If a word doesn't accept tanween, what do we mean? Can somebody give me, what does it mean? What can we say? It is not pure ism. Yes. Okay. So good. You're giving not pure ism. So what does it imply? Okay. So you're saying غير منصرف. Okay, that's fine. So what does it imply based on what we're saying here? It doesn't accept kasra. Yes. No kasra. So the grammarian wants you to think that these two are linked. If you want to be a pure noun, you better accept kasra. And if you cannot accept tanween, then you cannot have kasra. غير منصرف, they cannot have tanween. Why? Inshallah, that's something we'll study in the next week. But right now, just know that these words, they can't have tanween. Because they cannot have tanween, they cannot have kasra also. This is the first thing that I'm trying to tell you. If you cannot accept tanween, you cannot accept kasra. So what do? Because we need a kasra, after majrur, we need to have a kasra. So this is something, inshallah, we will find out. So let's go back to the books. So let us start with, now that we have a little bit of introduction to this topic, let's read what he's saying. He's saying, huwa, meaning the mamnu min as-sarf, al-ismul mu'rab. Few things you have to know that. Number one, of course, we're talking about ism, we're not talking about the verbs. And it is mu'rab. That means we are not talking about mabni. So we're talking about ism and mu'rab. Okay, so that means the ending will change one way or other. So it is ismul mu'rab alladhi, which la yalhaquhu tanween wala kasr. It is a noun, mu'rab nouns, which it does not have, meaning the tanween and kasra, it is not attached to it. And obviously he means at the end of the word. You see, so that's why I wanted to explain to you the relationship between the tanween and the book here. It is not explaining much, because remember, the some of the arguments that I give you, the logic that I give you, these things you will not find them in introductory grammar books, nor sometimes not even in intermediate books. Usually this kind of discussion comes in advanced book. So for example, if you study Qatranada or Alfiya, then they will talk about this whole concept of the relationship between the tanween and the kasra. Okay, so I'm giving you some of those insights. So the definition, what he wants to say it is an mu'rab noun which does not accept tanween nor kasra. But at the end of the day, we want to know the i'rab. What is the hukum? Since it doesn't accept kasra, we have to do something about this, right? So what it says, yurfa bi dhamma. So your rough state is fine. Your rough state is just like your asal. Because remember, we have waladun. I explained to you so many times, this tanwin, whether you have tanwin or if you have Ibrahimu, both of them is dhamma. Both of them is dhamma. So we don't care when we talk about dhamma, the state, we're not distinguishing between the tanwin or not. Both of them are dhamma. So that means both of them have the asal. The waladun is the dhamma, it's getting dhamma, which is its asal. And Ibrahimu, although it cannot accept tanwin, it is still using your asal, which is dhamma. Make sense? Okay, so what about how do we do the nasb state? Wa yunsabu, okay, wa yunsabu bil fatha. So that means nasb state is the same. Just like your normal nouns, you will say wala, done. And for the mamnu min as-sarf, ghair munsarif, you'll also say what? Fatha. Ibrahima. Okay, you will say Ibrahima. Just like your asl. The problem, as you can already guess, we're gonna have a problem with the jar because you can already think that well, then how do we do the jar? We need to put kasra. This is where the problem is. Wa yujarru bil fatha. Because it cannot accept the kasra, we will be using fatha instead. Okay, so here when we have in the situation of waladin, ila waladin, we will say ila what? Ibrahimi, no, Ibrahima. It's almost similar to what we had with the Jamu Muannath Salim. In the Muannath Salim, the place where we're supposed to put a fatha, what do we put? Huh? Put kasra. Yes. It is, you can think of its opposite. Honestly, that is all in terms of hukum. It's something that you just have to swallow it, you have to practice it, and you have to know it, right? So let's do a few examples. So for example, the Quran, it says, Qala Ibrahimu. So now we know this is in the rough state. If it's in the rough state, that means this is your file. So Ibrahim said. Qala Ibrahimu is Ibrahim said. So we have your asal, right? It's the zahira. Everything is fine. Okay, so you say it says fa'il marfu wa alamatu rafihi ad-dhamma. We understand the i'rab. The second example that he gives, wadhkur fil kitabi Ibrahima. So it is a verb, wadhkur, asking to remember, fil kitab, in the book. So remember what? See, this fil kitab is not part because you still have to know, remember what. That means you're still looking for what? You're looking for the object of this verb. Remember, okay, what should I remember? You're looking for object. So that means the object is maf'ul bihi is your Ibrahim. So, and we know that maf'ul bihi gets a fatha. Okay, in the nas state, it should be a fatha. So alhamdulillah, we have our fatha. No problem here. So as you said, here it says Ibrahim maf'ul bihi mansub wa alamatu nasbihi al-fatha. And what happens here? We have salamun ala. We have our prepositions and we are ready to see a kasra. After preposition, it needs to be majrur in the jar state. Salamun ala Ibrahima. This is the whole issue. Allah says, idhab ila fir'auna. Because Fir'aun is also mamnu min as-sarf. Make sense, guys? So here we have what? We have ismul majrur, because right after ala, the i'rab is, inshallah, we'll do this one when we go to the majrur, when we go to the majrurat state. After ala, the noun, we call it ismu majrur. That means the noun is the majrur state. So ismu majrur wa alamatu jarrihi al-fatha. Now, if it's al-fatha, we have a problem because we have to explain why you're saying fatha. Jar is what? Jar is a kasra, because that's why you have to say لِأَنَّهُ مَمْنُوع مِنَ الصَّرْفِ. Make sense, guys? Makes sense? Now, obviously, we have to know then, well, what are the words are mamnu min as-sarf? And I don't feel like studying this topic right now. Inshallah, something that I will start next week. But what we'll do instead, we'll go back to our chart and fill this thing up. And if I have some times, inshallah, I can say a few more things. So let's see. And this would be our last topic that we add in our chart with regards to ism. Okay, let me write it, then inshallah we will do a quick review here. So what do we say? Mamnu minas sarf. So mamnu minas sarf. What is mamnu min as-sarf? So let's just use the Ibrahim, the one that we've been using. Ibrahim. So in the marfu, we have marfu alamatu raf'ihi. What is the alama here? It's your asal. So it is dhamma. Dhamma. You can say dhahira, doesn't matter. So here, asal. We don't have to say anything because we can see a dhamma clearly. So what about in the nasb? Ibrahima. So nasb is also your asal. So we say mansub ala matu what nasbihi. We say al fatha. Again, which is also your asal. So we don't have to say anything else. Everything is fine. But let's see. But in the jar state, we have Ibrahima. That's where the problem is. We don't say Ibrahimi, and we say majrur alamatu what? Jarrihi al fatha. So now we cannot stop here. If we say al fatha, we need an explanation because you're not saying kasra. Li annahu what? Mamnu. You can say mamnu minas subhanallah sarf, or you can also say what? Ghair munsarif. Okay. So this is by and large in terms of Arab. This is it's very simple stuff. We have everything is fine except for, because it doesn't accept tanween, it can't also accept kasra. Instead, we do a fatha. Okay, you understand these things? Everything is asal except for the majrur state. In the majrur state, we do fatha instead of kasra because it is mamnu min as-sarf.